Hello and welcome to The Howl. I'm Michele Morgan, and in today's podcast we had volunteers from A Soldier's Journey Home talk about their experience at the Kentucky Build, all the hard work that goes into the process, and the sense of family they felt towards the other veterans and volunteers. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Howl. I'm Michele Morgan and will be your host today as we discuss A Soldier's Journey Home, a nonprofit organization that builds one house a year for a wounded veteran. This summer, we had a team of Hersey volunteers there to assist with the build. We will talk through what the Soldier's Journey Home trip meant to those who attended and what they took away from it. We have Mr. Mix, Mrs. Morgan, and Mr. Meier here today to discuss these particular topics with us. Thank you all for joining me.
You're welcome. Of course.
First thing I would like to discuss is how and why you guys got involved with A Soldier's Journey Home.
I found out through Mr. Hatfield. I saw some things around from previous years, and we started talking about it, and I'm a veteran, so I was very interested. And he told me where it was, and it worked in my schedule. My younger son wanted to come with, and so it all worked out very well for me. My dad lives down there as well, so I got to sneak in a visit with him too.
Cool.
I found out from you, Karis Meier, class member, and it sounded like a great opportunity. Anything having to do support military veterans, I'm all in, and it was something that's drivable and possible in summertime, so we were in.
In 2014, I think we started having school on Veterans Day, and my dad was a Vietnam veteran, and the day meant a lot to me, and we didn't have, some things rolling, so I thought, we got to get something going. Long story short, one of my best friends, his cousin, was helping to build a home for a veteran in Georgia, and that group was still forming together. Soldier's Journey Home was beginning to form then, and we decided to invite Jason Smith to Hersey in 2015 to our holiday assembly. We started the Ginger Build and became a player, tied Hersey to it, and ever since 2014, 2015, been loving this and supporting it.
So you've kind of been there from the beginning. How many years have you been a part of it exactly?
I think I think if I remember right, it was the fall of 2014 when I first met some of the. The Soldier's Journey Home wasn't bonded. It was a year after that, 2015, that we founded together. I was one of the founding board members and came in as an educational piece, which I wasn't sure exactly how we fit, but obviously here we are in 2022, so it was really an awesome fit with Hersey culture and great kids like yourselves. And, Mr. Hatfield, right away, his father was a veteran as well. He was super interested in the story of Jason being here and connecting our community to the veteran community in a healthy way. So it's really been great. I mean, it's been awesome.
And how would you say, at being at all of the builds, how they all differ from each other?
I mean, I would say, we were all just in Kentucky, right? Look at Mayfield, Kentucky. My gosh, it's so distinct. They just had a tornado. I mean, all of us taking that in and really seeing what happens, after disaster, but also you see the darkest side of what can happen in terms of struggle, but then also the most beautiful stuff. I mean, just wow. I mean, how amazing to see some of the locals come by and offer us lunch. Mm-hmm. We were out in the front yard. I think, Michelle, we were right. You were there. I think they were driving by to offer lunch to us.
Right.
Like,
or
you don't have a house.
Or they would come by with various things to drop off. Even one day I was going by where my car was parked, where all the volunteers had their cars parked, and it was right by what used to be a park, and there was somebody there trying to do some beautification, and she asked, she's like, you're here as one of the volunteers building the home, and I said, yes, ma'am, and she said, well, thank you for coming to help our community. We really appreciate it.
Cool.
Just get you.
And Mr. Meier, how would you explain or describe your first experience since this was your first build?
It was a great experience, so great that I'd like to continue on doing it. I think there was an added, and Mr. Mix touched on it, there was an added element to the build because of the surrounding area and the suffering that they had gone through. I mean, that town is devastated still today, and it was 8 months ago. So seeing that, and then also kind of a rebuilding. Yes, it's one house of many, hopefully in the future, but it was a mix of catastrophe and then, like a wildflower coming out of the earth, new growth. So it was fulfilling that way.
Cool. Do you want to take on the next question?
Oh yeah. Well, we already kind of touched about like what it was like arriving into town like that. I felt like me and Karis were very welcomed by the localists there. I just wanted to say that we felt so welcomed by them, and they were so nice to us. And obviously Hatfield is also very passionate about this, so I wanted to get that out of the way first, because he's always talking about the coins on the wall that we get like every year. We even got one of those that I keep at home. It's this will I've always wanted to be a part of this. When he told us about this like freshman year or like this 8th grade summer thing, he was promoting this because he's like so passionate and excited about it, and it just seemed so cool, and I loved being a part of it. So yeah, I just wanted to say that about this organization in general. I think it's just amazing, but yeah, with everything that happened with like Mayfield, it's like insane how you just go in there. Like he described how a tornado went through, and like, oh, when you go over that like hill, I forget, what was it called, like Veterans Hill or something? Yeah. When you like drive over that hill, you just see the destruction, but like you can't really imagine it until you see it.
Right.
Until it's there.
You really
Half
can't
homes
picture
or only
it.
the foundations of homes, the footprints of where they used to be, and now there's just nothing.
Nothing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And of course we like hear all these descriptions. It's like, yeah, there was this tornado there, and like we feel this is the best place for the build. And like when this is my first build too, so when I first got there, I really wasn't expecting it at all to be how bad it was. And like I'm sure you guys can say the same. You guys can, like, when you first got there, how did it feel to be there?
I don't think you can be prepared if you've never been in like a disaster area or emergency area before, but it you could just see the devastation. It was just rubble, bricks, just trash from homes everywhere, trees half broken, splintered. But as your dad said, just being able to build one home, and the way they do it, a soldier's journey home, it's really impressive. I mean, from start to finish in 2 weeks. And I realize there's things that go on before we get there. They get permits, they gather things together, but it's fascinating to see how many hands make light work, and we got it done.
Right, yeah. Because obviously, at least for my personal experience, I was there when towards the, Hersey kids were there towards the end of the process. So, and I know you all had different times being there. What stage of the process were you guys at when you got there?
I arrived towards the end, but even at the end, just from my own personal experience, I knew there was a whole lot of work still to be done. But when you have 100 people working together, it came together, and that was amazing to have the handoff to Tim. That was, when there's a whole bunch of people working together for a common goal, that was proof of what can get done.
Yeah, it's always awesome. I mean, when I first show up, I've had friends in the organization for years. I talk to them all the time, and when I show up later, I'm good on the landscape crew, not so handy with the carpentry. So actually, Sal and that crew, those leaders, they wouldn't even let me in the house, which is a good thing for the house. But when I showed up, the wreckage from the tornado was a gut punch, because you think about the stress of daily life, let alone COVID, whatever's going on in the world. Like, wow, they really have a lot going on here. And then, but also another aspect of that was it's uplifting, because I know what's going to happen. Is this house is going to be beautiful. And a couple of the locals came by, just a couple of them in tears, and just said, thanks for doing this, for Tim and for his family. It's, gives us a little bit of hope. And I thought that in my head, but then someone vocalized it. And it's really important. And then I started to see construction down the street a little bit. Some of the FEMA money was coming in, and to see that house materialize in 12 days with people from 15 states, from all walks of life, with young people and old people, it's just coming together in a beautiful way better than anything we got going on social media. It's just the experience of a Soldier's Journey home build. That camaraderie, humor, love, it's all there. It's very healthy.
Yeah.
In the end, nobody makes a dime. I mean, it's really, it's a beautiful thing. So knowing like, wow, that devastation makes you appreciate your daily life, but then knowing also like, this house is going to work. This house is going to be awesome. I've seen this before, and I'm excited for this family, but also for that community to get that spark of hope that they needed.
Right. I feel like the town was very connected. They had other people, constructing other houses like nearby that we saw, and different people from the town, like you said, like helping us, like donating, like giving us food and water and drinks and all that, and local companies coming out to help us. The town was very close to one another, including, like, I think the mayor who spoke at the ceremony. She gave a beautiful speech, but even she was just like, she wasn't like a politician or anything. She was helping the local firemen and all that, and giving them like barbecues and and food and water and all this stuff. And then they loved her so much they decided to have her as mayor of Mayfield, and it's just like very personal, connected. They're a community. It's not like they don't know each other. Like, I don't even know most of my neighbors, but like all these people knew each other so well, and they were so close. And I think that's also what kind of helped bring this build together, was everyone was so closely attached to one another. Everyone wanted to help. They knew each other.
And I really don't think you get to see that unless you're there, because we have you guys talking about it here, and the Hersey Dispatch, we make videos on it, and I really, the only time I heard about Soldier's Journey Home was through the Ginger Build, because clubs and sports always go to that. But I love that we're getting to express this a little more so other people can hear about it, because it's really a great experience, and it's like something that you would never expect. Like, I really don't think people knew about this sense of community, the tornado there, and like how we all just came together to just build this house. It's really amazing. It's great to see and have it all come together.
And just jumping in there too, one of our goals this year for Ginger Build is you look at that common patriotic project. Mm-hmm. It's very healthy, full of love for your fellows, and seeing young people engage in that is awesome. Multiple generations, working together and collaborating, not in some social media silo. Like, just here we are, real people working together for that common cause, and you see that good. It's not what am I taking or what am I getting or who's liking my stuff. It's like what are we giving? What are we doing together for each other? It's really an awesome spirit. So we're going to try to make sure that more kids experience that emotional, the kind of emotional commons that's healthy for the Ginger Build this year, a little more education. So thank you guys for doing this podcast so we can start talking to our, but we would love to share with our community what you kids felt.
Yeah, it's so many emotions go through your head, especially like when you arrive to town, when they're building the houses, and I would say especially at the end, there was, you could physically see it on people's faces, the tears and like the distress. What was it like for you guys when you get to see Tim Anderson for the first time and the mayor's speech, and just walk us through what you guys were thinking at that time?
It was a culmination of a few days hard work, but also like I mentioned before, the connectivity of everyone there going for a common goal, and then you see Tim, but then also definitely in addition to the emotion of the moment were his kids. And we had been working on a house, and instantly it became a home. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, and we were able to put some playground things out there for his children, and different stores donated some things as well. So you're putting, welcome flags out in front of the house, and American flags, and so that was kind of nice. They decorated the interior so it wasn't just paint on the walls. They put a coin in the fireplace to add that personal stamp. But the mayor was out there one of the days I was working too, and she was very personable, came up and again said thank you, and was thanking everybody for their efforts and what they did. There were also restaurants that came out, and I think they donated a lunch. We had barbecue one day, and it was fantastic. And yeah, everybody was very, very gracious down there.
Yeah, and I think being at that end ceremony is not, of course, everyone didn't get to experience that, but I think that's the best part, honestly. And if anyone can be at that ceremony, you know, be there for sure, because it's so rewarding, because, you know, you're doing all this work for, you know, this one person, and then to see it come to life with their kids, it's just really just amazing, and everything that went into it. It's like a very just feel good, proud moment.
Yeah, the children. I mean, that. You know, I wasn't at this year's the finale, but I will tell you that my favorite part has always been watching the maid. You can just imagine the good and the change that's going to happen for the kids.
Yeah, I always say it's one thing to know that, you know, this organization in general is just, you know, because he's a veteran, he served for our country, you know, and all the bravery that comes with that, you know, and the strength and everything you need with that as like a job. But it's another thing to see him as a father. And when we like see his car, you know, pulling up to the driveway, oh my God, sorry, my voice cracked. But like when we see his car pulling up, it was just so different to see that he's like kind of, you know, like just a normal guy that you know, others could talk to and stuff like that. And he was like a father, and he really cared about his children, that they had, you know, different things in the house for them, that they can be entertained by, like, and we all cared about him and his family, of course. But it's just the fact that you really see him as a father figure in that moment, because his kids were like right next to him and walking in through the door with him and handed the key and all that. That was just really special to me, to see him as a father figure.
And something, I mean, you guys are all parents too, so, I mean, what did this build, obviously seeing him as, you know, a father and not just a veteran, but both, and what did you take away from this year's build?
Well, if you want to talk, you know, father, I mean, my father was a Vietnam veteran, and one of my big drive for, I mean, my quote, you know, my dad came back from, he won a Bronze Star in Vietnam. He came back from Vietnam. He had lost some of his eyebrows, some of his hair. It was rough for a little while. But he also, as he came back, he said, you know, I came back and I felt like a stranger in my own house, quote. And I never forgot that. That just resonated in my ears. You know, not that people were in the family were mistreating him, because they weren't. But he said, I always blame the culture in general for not looking at the complexity of the humans and just letting the newscasts dominate the American narrative. And my dad was just in that wave, right? But he said, I still felt it, and I felt, you know, like it took a while, you know, to get adjusted. And I do think we do owe the Vietnam, you know, the VVA 311 around here, and the Vietnam veterans, we owe them some credit for organizations like A Soldier's Journey Home. Because there's Salute Inc., Road Home, so many wonderful things were born from what that generation did. But so, yeah, I remember when I first started doing this, you know, my father was just thrilled that, you know, people were doing this, and how exciting to see veterans treated well and treated as humans, you know, as your neighbor, as a father, as a mother, and just, you know, somebody, your sister, your brother, you know, not a newscast, but a human. And so, yeah, that really, you know, when you talk about Tim as a father and seeing him, really powerful for me.
Yeah. What about you, Mr. Meier, this being your first build? What did you take away from it?
My takeaway is that it's important to get out of your comfort zone. I had never done an overnight all-in kind of volunteerism like this, and it was, like I said before, I'm looking to keep doing it, and maybe grab some of your siblings with.
For sure. What about you? What would you say your biggest takeaway was?
I think as a veteran myself, it was enriching just to be able to help somebody that was a fellow veteran. I think part of being in the military and being a first responder, which I was a police officer too, those people that you work with, you develop such strong relationships with, because you're there together. I was out of country. I was in Germany for 3 years, and you know, you're spending holidays with these people, you're spending all your time off with these people, and they become your family. And so it's like being able to help someone in your extended family, because as a mom, I can't imagine standing in my home and just watching it be torn away all his memories, all his photos, clothing, everything just goes flying around, and you don't know where it's going. You don't know if you're going to live or die. And then everything you've worked for your entire life is now gone in a heartbeat, thanks to Mother Nature, who can control that.
Right.
What an overwhelming feeling of helplessness.
Yeah.
And so to be able to give back and give to this man and help him as a father and a veteran, that's
And I'm sure it's
everything.
It's especially like you have such a connection because you're a veteran. So like you said, you feel like your family already, and I'm sure.
Right. What if it was me?
Right.
I mean, holy cow.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking to see, and it's great to see everyone helping, and all the veterans coming together, and people outside, and Mr. Meier, because like what do you do for a living?
I'm a project manager for a construction company.
Right. So, being in that field, we have veterans who are connected, and then we also have people like you who have worked in that field before. So, can you describe like just the comparison to being what you do at your everyday life and everyday job to the build site in Kentucky?
Well, this was all construction sites are controlled chaos, but this one was definitely chaotic, but in a good way, because there were so many people there. Normally a construction site with this many people would be a large commercial building, but everybody was very organized, had their roles, different trades were running. I mean, it all came together so fast. I remember saying to myself, I wish I could have some of these people with me on my job sites, because people were motivated.
I feel like timing was tight. Like I feel like when
yeah.
something else gets built, or I've never had a home built, but you speak to someone and they're like, oh, today the foundation got poured, and it's a week later that something else happens, and a week later that something else happens. Pete Hamrick, who just left here, also a veteran, he was on security last year with Hersey. He had a home built in South Dakota, and so I'd get updates from him, but to get his house built from start to finish probably took almost a year.
Right. I mean, other house builds, it's just
Right.
You can see it visually. It takes so long.
Everybody's there at once.
Right.
You have the painters inside, and they're like literally waiting for the drywall to be up and ready to go. And 10 minutes later, they're putting paint on walls or primer on walls. And it was just the timing of it was so tight. But everybody was very patient with each other. I think I was a little nervous because I didn't feel like you wonder if you have something to offer. Like, what's my profession was as a police officer. I can't. What do I have to bring to it? I'm not a painter. I don't do HVAC. But Todd Hatfield was like, go. They will find something for you to do. You will not be idle. They will put you to work.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And you show up that first day, and you're there at 7 o'clock, and everybody's there with a cup of coffee and a smile, and you have your briefing, and they found stuff for me to do every single day, and I was busy 8-10 hours. As long as you would stay, they would keep you working. You were just going. And I had a lot to offer, a lot more than I initially thought I would have.
Yeah, it's really cool to see because, we have people in the construction area, but then we just have, your ordinary teenagers, parents, so many people coming together, and everyone was working, whether it was, you're doing landscaping because, you're not professional in that area, and there's so many behind the scenes, like I did a project on logistics and was able to see that kind of stuff, and it's just there's so many things that go into it, and so many people just do so many things.
Fed.
Right,
and
the food, yeah.
Everybody needs to get hydrated because it was warm out there, so they were making sure we had the energy powder to put in our water, or the electrolyte powder, and popsicles. I probably hadn't had one of those popsicles in plastic, like the popsicle sticks.
Freeze pops.
In 30 years. And it was, someone came around the corner with a container of them, and I was like, sweating. Great, yeah, thank you so much. It was the best popsicle I think I'd ever had in my life,
It was like in 90-degree weather. You were just so
Right?
thankful that you
Yeah.
had these people. And like they had the mist tent.
Oh,
I
that
liked where you
that
could
was
just sit
nice
there
too,
and
like
have the
just
fan with
get
the
a
mist.
breather.
I love that.
My truck read 117 one day,
Really?
It was warm.
and it was just sitting in the sun. But it was 100 and something,
I
I think,
know.
when we were sitting out there.
And everyone was so supportive of each other. Everyone was checking up on each other, getting water, getting food. Like, just such a great sense of community there. It's really great to see.
Oh yeah,
They
well, several of the people giving water were, first responders, paramedics. They were actually seriously checking all of us out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
How are you
And
feeling?
I said, hey, anybody get sent home? Yeah. She go, oh yeah. If I tell you to go home, you're going. In other words, we're going to care for you. So that was
Or
actually.
they would tell people, okay, you need
Take
10
a
minutes.
break,
Go,
yeah.
go sit in the
Yeah.
cooling tent.
Yeah.
Just take a break.
So
But
it's good that
community.
they have all aspects there. It's very professional.
They definitely
to
took
see.
care of us, and
Yeah.
it was hot and humid. But I have to say, of my memories, that doesn't come to mind.
Me either. I don't
Yeah,
remember
there
being
was so much
the
more
miserable,
going
hot
on.
and sweaty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
which is good because that's not what we want to remember, obviously.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So going on to the future, the build next year. Do you guys think you'll attend?
I certainly hope to. My son, as I said, he was 13 and he came out about 3 days of the final week, and he would have come more. He wasn't unsure the first day, and then he jumped right in. And I had people I didn't know come up to me and say, "Is that your son? He'll offer his help. He's very helpful. He's very polite. You're doing a good job, Mom." And he was tired. He'd fall asleep in the car next to me. And I'm like, "You ready to go back the next day?" Absolutely. Like, he wanted to be there. He wanted to be there on time. He wanted to have the right equipment with him. And he learned a lot. He learned about, painting and doing trim. And, there's power tools every 10 feet. It's crazy. But everybody took care of him as well. I didn't have to worry about him at all. It was, they took care of him. He got hydrated, he did things, but he definitely said when we were leaving and driving back home, I want to do that next year. So, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
we're going to try and do it as often as we can.
And I think you told me, you were like, I wish I could go for longer, and I would say the same. It's such a great experience to have. It's like,
Yeah, real work still calls, but I definitely would like to go again, and hopefully the summer schedule gods will keep things aligned.
Yeah, I always hope to go. If I can, carve out a week and, like I said, come on the landscape. I come on the tail end just because I'm a lot more useful. Although you're always useful. There's always something, as Michelle
Yeah.
said. There's always
something to do.
It's always
there's
something.
always something to do. But yeah, of course, I'd hate to miss it.
Yeah, Hatfield's kids do it like basically every summer. I don't know if we did during 2020.
I don't think so.
I don't think there was one during that.
Yeah.
Because of that. But before, one of the girls I was working with, as Gia, she said that the last one she did was Maine, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just great to see, in general, because I've only been in Kentucky like once before, so it was like nice to see like a new part of the states, that I wasn't used to, like a new type of culture and all that. So I'd like to see if that's like in what it's like
where it's going to be next
Yeah,
year. Like,
yeah,
I don't
I
like
wanna
kind
know.
of waiting to
I'm
see,
excited.
like,
I know,
okay,
I'm excited. Like,
Yeah.
have I been there before?
Right.
Do we get to, like, what's around there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because we got that switch. We were told it was going to be in was it North Carolina, and then it
Yeah.
got
Right.
switched to Kentucky. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens next year.
I hope sometime we can. And the candidates used to come to Hersey for the Gingerbuild. So I hope we
Yeah.
can. I hope we can make that happen
Yeah,
again.
hopefully. we can
Great.
come. Yeah. Well, that'll be exciting this year. Do you guys have any final thoughts to add?
Thanks for. I'm telling you, as a Hatfield's heroes, right? Your crew. You show up, you energize that whole crew. And I mean that. It's what you're doing is telling the story here, and then Captain Neville there, Patty, right? He was dead serious when they hey, well, this is what we'd like to do here. Your videos that you make, they make it real. They legitimate things, and it makes a lot of good possible in real ways. Because no one believes you. Hey, we're going to build this house in 12 days. Come on,
Right,
man.
yeah.
No, let me show you. Here's a whole bunch of these kids. And they're professional. Your work is excellent, but it really does a lot of good. But it's also inspiring And I know that the crews from different walks of life, when the young crew shows up, it's just a hope too, like in terms of, oh wow, we're all connected in a healthy way, in a generational way. So thanks for all your sacrifices. You could be sitting at the pool and it's 110 degrees and you're digging a fence post or taking a picture.
Thank you for having found this organization in the first place. Like,
I just was lucky to be a part of it as it started to form.
Yeah.
And this community embraced it. I mean, I was terrified the first time our first ginger bill. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So we make this money. I'm thinking, this is crazy. We're going to go to Georgia. And I'm like, some people thought I was crazy. I'm like, this is great. No, but Hershey was great. This community is awesome.
Yeah, we love to do it. Well, thank you guys for sharing your experience, and thank you for tuning into The Howl as we got to discuss A Soldier's Journey Home. Thank you to you guys, our guests, for sharing your experience, and thank you to our viewers for tuning in, and we hope to see you guys at the Build next year.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank
do
you.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, crew.